What happens when a beloved television detective becomes the target of a talk show host's shocking accusations and condescending remarks? In just 46 seconds, Lorraine Kelly went from gracious interviewer to antagonist, sparking one of the most dramatic exits in British daytime television history. It started like any other morning segment. Neil Dudgeon, the charming face of Midsummer Murders, settled into the bright yellow sofa on the Lorraine set. The studio lights gleamed overhead. The audience clapped warmly. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary. Lorraine Kelly sat across from him, flanked by her regular panelists. To her left sat Christine Lampard, the frequent stand-in host, and to her right, entertainment correspondent Ross King. Both wore the pleasant smiles of morning television professionals. "So Neil, lovely to have you here," Lorraine began, her Scottish accent lilting through the studio. "You've been playing DCI Barnaby for what, 13 years now?" "That's right," Neil replied with his trademark warmth. 13 wonderful years. The show's been such a gift." Lorraine leaned forward, and something shifted in her expression. 13 years playing the same character. Don't you think that's a bit, well, lazy for an actor of your supposed caliber? The studio went quiet. Christine Lampard's smile froze. Ross King glanced sideways at Lorraine. Neil blinked, clearly caught off guard. "I'm sorry, lazy?" "Well, yes," Lorraine continued, waving her hand dismissively. "Real actors challenge themselves. They take risks. They don't just coast on the same cozy detective show year after year." "Do they?" Christine shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Lorraine, I think what Neil has done with the role is actually quite—" "I'm talking to Neil, Christine." Lorraine cut her off sharply, not breaking eye contact with her guest. Neil maintained his composure, though his jaw tightened slightly. "With respect, Lorraine, I don't think longevity in a role equals laziness. The character evolves. The stories evolve. Each episode presents new challenges." "Oh, please," Lorraine scoffed, actually rolling her eyes on camera. "You stand in an English village. You look at a body. You interview suspects. It's hardly Hamlet, is it?" Ross King cleared his throat. "To be fair, Midsummer Murders is one of the most successful." "Ross, darling, I know what the show is," Lorraine interrupted again, her tone dripping with condescension. "I'm simply saying that some actors push themselves, and others, well, they find a comfortable little niche and never leave it." Neil's expression hardened. A comfortable little niche that brings joy to millions of viewers around the world. A niche that employs hundreds of crew members and actors. I'm quite proud of that niche, actually. "Are you, though?" Lorraine pressed, leaning back in her chair with an air of superiority. "Or are you just scared to try anything else? Scared you might not be able to carry a different role?" The audience murmured. This was not the cheerful morning show banter they'd expected. Christine tried again. "Lorraine, this seems a bit unfair. Neil's body of work before Midsummer was quite diverse." "Christine, if I want your opinion—" "I'll ask for it," Lorraine snapped, her voice rising. She turned back to Neil. "Look, I'm just being honest here. Something your colleagues in the industry are probably too polite to say to your face." "Honest?" Neil repeated, his voice calm but firm. "Or just rude?" Lorraine's eyes widened in mock shock. "Rude? I'm rude? I've given you a platform on my show, and you're calling me rude? You've spent the last few minutes insulting my career and my choices," Neil said evenly. "Yes, I'd call that rude." Ross King jumped in, trying to defuse the situation. "Maybe we should talk about the new season. I hear there's a particularly interesting episode, filmed at a—" "Ross, stop trying to save this," Lorraine said curtly. She pointed at Neil. "He comes on my show, sits on my sofa, and has the audacity to criticize me." "I criticized your behavior, not you," Neil corrected. "There's a difference." "Oh, don't get philosophical with me," Lorraine shot back. "You know what I think? I think you've gotten comfortable. Too comfortable. You've forgotten what real acting is. You just show up, collect your paycheck, and go home. Must be nice. Christine's face flushed. Lorraine, that's completely out of line. Stay out of this, Christine, Lorraine warned. Neil sat up straighter. You don't know anything about my work ethic. You don't know about the early mornings, the long days, the dedication our entire cast and crew put into making quality television. Quality? Lorraine laughed harshly. It's formulaic drivel. Someone dies in a pretty village. You solve it. Repeat. Where's the quality in that? The quality is in the craft, Neil replied, his voice rising slightly now. The quality is in the storytelling, the performances, the production values. Just because you don't appreciate it doesn't mean it isn't there. Lorraine's face reddened. Don't you dare tell me what I do or don't appreciate. I've been in this industry longer than you. I've interviewed actual important people. Hollywood stars, politicians. You're just a television actor who got lucky. The studio fell silent. Even the camera operators seemed to tense. Ross King's mouth hung open. Christine shook her head in disbelief. Neil's voice became very quiet, very controlled. Just a television actor who got lucky. That's what you think of me. That's what you think of everyone who works in television. Apparently, I didn't say everyone. Lorraine backtracked slightly, but her tone remained hostile. I'm saying you've had it easy. You've taken the easy path. Easy? Neil's composure finally cracked. You think 13 years of carrying a show is easy? You think maintaining quality, keeping audiences engaged, respecting the legacy of the role is easy. Easier than challenging yourself with new roles, yes, Lorraine retorted. This is unbelievable, Christine muttered, loud enough for the microphones to catch. Neil looked at Lorraine for a long moment. You know what I think is easy? Sitting in a studio, asking scripted questions written by your producers, and occasionally inserting your own opinions as if they're gospel truth. That seems pretty easy to me. Lorraine's face went from red to purple. How dare you? This is my show. My name is on it. I've built this from nothing. And yet you use it to tear down guests who come here in good faith, Neil responded. What does that say about you? Get out, Lorraine said suddenly. Neil raised his eyebrows. Excuse me? You heard me. Get out of my studio. Get off my show. I don't need to sit here and be insulted by some provincial actor who thinks he's better than everyone else. I never said I was better than anyone, Neil said calmly, standing up. But I certainly don't think I'm less than anyone either, despite your best efforts to suggest otherwise. Christine stood as well. Lorraine, you can't just kick a guest off the show mid-interview. Watch me, Lorraine snapped. Security, please escort Mr. Dudgeon out. Ross King looked mortified. This is crazy. Hi, Lorraine, you started this whole thing. Did I ask for your commentary, Ross? Lorraine glared at him. Neil unbuttoned his suit jacket slowly, deliberately. You don't need to call security. I'm happy to leave. I have no interest in staying somewhere I'm not respected. Oh, playing the victim now, are we? Lorraine mocked. Typical. I'm not playing anything, Neil said, his voice steady and dignified. I came here to talk about a show I love, with a cast and crew I respect, for fans who've supported us for years. Instead, I've been subjected to insults and condescension. Christine moved toward Neil. I'm so sorry about this. This isn't how we usually... Don't apologize for me, Christine, Lorraine barked. I meant every word. Neil looked at Christine with a sad smile. Sir, it's not your fault. He turned to Ross. Or yours. Then he looked back at Lorraine. This reflects on you, not me. Get off my stage, Lorraine repeated, her voice shaking with anger. Gladly, Neil said. He looked toward the audience. Thank you all for being here. I'm sorry you had to witness this. A few audience members started to applaud. Others looked confused and uncomfortable. Don't you dare try to turn my audience against me, Lorraine said, standing up now herself. I'm not trying to turn anyone against anyone, Neil replied. I'm simply being polite to people who deserve politeness. Oh, and I don't deserve politeness, Lorraine challenged. You reap what you sow, Neil said simply. Christine put a hand on Lorraine's arm. Please, let's just take a breath, and... Lorraine shrugged her off. Don't touch me. Everyone seems to think they can tell me how to run my own show. Ross King stood up too, clearly distressed. Nobody's trying to run your show, Lorraine. We're trying to salvage what's left of this interview. There's nothing to salvage, Lorraine declared. Mr. Dudgeon has made his feelings perfectly clear. He thinks he's too good for this show. I never said that, Neil corrected, still standing calmly by the sofa. You're putting words in my mouth now. I don't need to put words anywhere. Your attitude speaks volumes, Lorraine shot back. My attitude? Neil actually laughed, but there was no humor in it. You called my work lazy. You called it drivel. You suggested I was scared and comfortable and collecting paychecks. And you think I have an attitude problem? You're twisting my words, Lorraine said defensively. Am I? Neil looked at the cameras. I'm sure the tape will show exactly what was said. Lorraine's eyes flashed. Are you threatening me? I'm stating a fact, Neil said. Everything that was said here was recorded. I don't need to twist anything. Christine stepped between them. Okay, everyone needs to calm down. We're all professionals here. Are we? Neil asked quietly. Because professional hosts don't usually attack their guests unprovoked. Unprovoked? Lorraine's voice went shrill. You came on my show with your smug little smile and your perfect little career and your... And my what? Neil interrupted. My job that I work hard at? My role that I take seriously? My respect for the people I work with? Ross King moved closer. Neil's right, Lorraine. You did start this. He answered your first question perfectly reasonably, and then you went after him. Not you too, Ross, Lorraine said, looking betrayed. I thought you were on my side. There shouldn't be sides, Ross said gently. This is supposed to be a friendly interview. Well, it's not friendly anymore, is it? Lorraine declared. Mr. Dudgeon has seen to that. Neil shook his head slowly. The mental gymnastics you're doing to make yourself the victim here are truly impressive. I am the victim, Lorraine insisted. I'm being ganged up on in my own studio. You're being held accountable, Neil corrected. That's different. Christine looked at the floor manager. Can we go to commercial? No, Lorraine said sharply. Let everyone see this. Let everyone see how ungrateful guests can be. Ungrateful? Neil's voice rose again. For what should I be grateful? For the insults? For the disrespect? For the public humiliation? For the opportunity to be on my show, Lorraine shouted. Your show isn't the opportunity you seem to think it is, Neil said quietly. Not if this is how you treat people. The audience gasped. Some started whispering to each other. Lorraine pointed a shaking finger at Neil. Get out. Get out right now. I don't want you here another second. I'm going, Neil said, already moving toward the edge of the stage. Trust me, I have no desire to stay. Good, Lorraine spat, and don't expect to ever be invited back. Neil paused at the steps. John, don't worry. I wouldn't come back if you begged me. As if I would ever beg someone like you to be on my show, Lorraine retorted. Someone like me? Neil turned back. What does that mean exactly? Lorraine faltered for a moment. Someone so full of themselves. Someone who thinks they're above a simple morning chat show. I never thought I was above anything, Neil said wearily. I just expected basic respect. Apparently that was too much to ask. Christine's eyes were wet. Neil, please, I'm so sorry. Stop apologizing, Christine, Lorraine commanded. You're making it worse. Making what worse? Christine asked, her voice breaking. This is already a disaster. It's only a disaster because he made it one, Lorraine pointed at Neil. Ross King threw his hands up. Lorraine, you can't actually believe that. We were all here. We all heard what you said. I said what needed to be said, Lorraine insisted stubbornly. Someone had to be honest with him. There's a difference between honesty and cruelty, Neil said from the steps. You crossed that line 5 minutes ago. Oh, please, Lorraine scoffed. You're just upset because someone finally told you the truth about your little detective show. The truth according to you, Neil emphasized, which clearly isn't worth very much. Lorraine gasped. How dare you speak to me like that? How dare you speak to me like you did, Neil countered. You started this, Lorraine. You fired the first shot. Don't act wounded now that I'm defending myself. Defending yourself? You're attacking me, Lorraine cried. I'm responding to your attacks, Neil clarified. There's a difference. The audience was completely silent now, watching the exchange like a tennis match. Christine wiped her eyes. This has gotten so out of hand. Then maybe your host should learn some manners, Neil suggested. Manners? Lorraine laughed bitterly. You're going to lecture me about manners? Someone should, Neil said bluntly. Clearly, nobody else has. Ross King winced. Okay, maybe we all need to take a step back. I'm already leaving, Neil reminded them. I've been trying to leave, but apparently we need to drag this out even more. Nobody's dragging anything out, Lorraine said. Just go. I'm going, Neil said again, descending one step. Finally, Lorraine muttered. Neil stopped. You know what's sad? I actually used to respect you. I used to think you were a good interviewer. Warm. Genuine. I was wrong. Lorraine's face crumpled for just a second before hardening again. I don't need your respect. Clearly, Neil agreed. Because you've certainly lost it today. Get out! Lorraine screamed, her voice echoing through the studio. I'm going, Neil shouted back, matching her volume for the first time. The audience jumped. Some people put their hands to their mouths. Christine started crying openly. Ross King looked like he wanted to disappear. Neil took a deep breath, visibly composing himself. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet, but firm. I hope whatever satisfaction you got from this was worth it, because you've shown everyone watching exactly who you really are. And you've shown everyone what a precious, entitled actor looks like, Lorraine retorted, but her voice wavered. I'm entitled because I expected basic courtesy? Neil asked. That says everything about your values. Don't you psychoanalyze me, Lorraine warned. I don't need to, Neil said sadly. You've done it yourself. With that, he turned and walked down the steps, across the studio floor, and toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the shocked silence. Lorraine stood frozen on the stage, her chest heaving, her face flushed. Christine sat down heavily, still crying. Ross King stared at nothing, looking shell-shocked. The cameras kept rolling as Neil reached the studio door. He paused with his hand on the handle, so looked back one last time at Lorraine, shook his head, and walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click that somehow felt deafening in the silent studio. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The audience sat motionless, barely breathing. Then Lorraine seemed to snap back to awareness. Well, she said, her voice artificially bright but shaking badly. That was certainly unexpected. Christine looked up at her, mascara running down her face. Lorraine, what just happened? What happened? Lorraine said, straightening her jacket with trembling hands. Is that a guest forgot how to behave professionally on live television. Ross King finally found his voice. Lorraine, you can't seriously be blaming him for this. Can't I? Lorraine's voice was defensive, brittle. He insulted me, and he insulted my show. He walked off my stage. After you called his life's work lazy and formulaic, Christine said, wiping her eyes, after you suggested he wasn't a real actor. I was being honest, Lorraine insisted, but she looked around as if seeing the studio properly for the first time. The horrified faces of the crew, the shocked expressions of the audience, the cameras still recording every moment. "We need to go to commercial," the floor manager finally called out. "No," Lorraine said automatically, then paused. "Actually, yes. Yes, go to commercial." The lights shifted, the live broadcast signal cut, and in the sudden absence of cameras and pressure, Lorraine Kelly finally seemed to realize what she had done. But Neil Dudgeon was already gone, walking out of the building and into the morning sunlight, his dignity intact despite everything that had just transpired. He had remained calm in the face of aggression. He had defended himself without descending to her level. He had stood up for his work, his colleagues, and his principles. And everyone who watched would remember exactly how it happened and who was truly at fault.